Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 16 of the Cinematic Boys Reviews. Of course, we got Bilal and Sammy in the building today with Dakota yourself. Myself, not yourself. That just came out so wrong. Sorry, guys.
Wait. Dakota, you have a clone?
No.
That's
That would be
all.
cool, though.
This is new
That'd be cool.
lore.
I would never have to go to work if I had a cologne.
If I had a cologne, I wouldn't have to go to work either.
Oh, exactly, bro.
But, of course, today, guys, it's not about talking about clones. Today, of course, we are talking about the second movie
Apes to
in
get
the original Planet of the Apes trilogy, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. So this movie came out in 2014. This is directed by the greatest Batman director right now, as I know of,
Greatest
Matt
director of all
Reeves.
time, Matt Reeves.
The greatest, the one to birth cinema. Matt Reeves, ladies and gentlemen.
Of course, this movie stars Gary Oldman, Andy Serkis. I don't know who else.
Jason Clarke.
Yes, I forgot about Jason Clarke, to be honest with you. Oh, who's the dude? He's from the bad Fantastic Four. Toby Kibble.
Toby Kibble.
Kerry Russell.
Yeah.
Judy Gardner's in this. I didn't even know. Oh, no, Judy Greer. I didn't even know that.
Really?
You know Karen from Halloween?
Yeah.
Yeah. She plays Steven's wife.
That's cool.
I didn't even know that.
She did a good job.
But mostly that is it. Of course, we get a cameo by James Franco. But, of course, guys, let's get right into this.
Oh, who's James Franco?
Wait, is that the guy? Oh, that's Dave Franco's brother. Dude.
Yeah, that guy.
That's Dave Franco's brother. You know, Jump Street.
Harry Osborn.
The guy that played soccer. Yeah, Harry Osborn.
Harry
The guy that played soccer
Anyways,
in Superbad.
Sammy, what are your thoughts on Dawn of Planet of the Apes,
bro?
Spoiler free, by the way. First,
spoiler free, by the way.
Spoiler free section of the video. It's peak. It was like I forgot how good it was. When I saw it as a kid, I loved it, but I didn't really I don't think I really sat and really paid attention to the story that much. You know what I mean? But I really feel like it surpasses the first film in a lot of different ways. It takes the groundwork that the first film did and applies it really well here, even with a new director, which is sometimes very hasty and not really done very well, especially for example, you could argue the new Star Wars trilogy does a lot of that, but here it works really well. The performances are really solid. Everyone's giving it their all. I feel like there's nothing that feels really lackluster, and honestly, it kind of makes me wish we had more films that had that kind of care now that they did 10 years ago.
Yeah.
At least with because it just there's a lot of moments where it feels just very theatrical, and it's very aware of what it's wanting to talk about and how to approach it and what its inspirations are for at least plot wise. And yeah, I loved it. What about you, Bilal? What'd you think, man?
First of all, Matt Reeves takes what's great about Rise and just elevates it to a whole different level. First of all, the way the apes look are so realistic. It was crazy to think this movie was made in 2014. It's so insane that some movies, this movie looks better than some modern movies nowadays, which is
for sure.
mind-blowing. First of all, the cinematography is outstanding in this movie, and I love how they made these apes talk to each other with sign language and such a little great touch to the story. And I love the conflicts between the apes and the humans in this movie, explored in such an interesting way and have an interesting dynamic between Caesar and the main villain being Koba. And I also really appreciate this the environment, right? The jungle is so great to look at. It's the way they shot this movie is spectacular. And I'm pretty sure most of this movie was filmed in Vancouver, if I'm not mistaken, and you can really see how beautiful the location is. And Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, I also really appreciate how they use motion capture for each like character who portrays these apes too.
Okay, now it's my turn. So I love this movie absolutely a whole bunch. So after watching this yesterday, I see what Bilal is saying. When you look at Rise, then you look at Dawn. After, because I watched these back to back. So, of course, getting ready for King of the Planet of the Apes. After you end with Rise and the camera work in that, then starting with Dawn and seeing how Matt Reeves like turned this franchise into like his own little thing with his camera style. It's clear, the pictures are crisp. I think you can see more emotion on the apes' faces in this. I love the war paint aspect on Caesar and his whole entire group. Caesar as the leader, and you see him speak more, and see, and you also see how an incredible actor Andy Serkis is in this. It just shows the levels of how good this movie is. Not only from the acting, the story of course, you got these humans. It's been 10 years after Rise, so everything has gone mostly south for the humans ever since the simian flu went worldwide. And I just love how he has, like Bilal has said, he took the story from Rise and he continued with it, and he didn't mess anything up. He made it constant. He made his own thing, and even though all the way through, and of course we know we get another movie, the ending, he sets it up perfect for war and what he's done with that. But overall, I really enjoy this movie, and I think that's about it. So right now we're going to get into our spoiler section of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. If you guys haven't seen Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, I would highly recommend you guys go see this movie. Later on the podcast, we will be telling you guys where you guys can go see this. If it is available on streaming right now, which I know it is in some places, but later on in the episode, I will tell you guys. But
Or
let's
get
get
a
right
physical.
into and of course, if you go on physical like me and Bilal do you go on physical, Sammy?
I don't. I wish I did though.
But of course, before we get into the spoiler part, I didn't even ask you guys this question. This is rewatch for all of us, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
this was a rewatch for me.
When was the first time you watched this? Like, were you in the home? Were you in the theater?
Bilal?
Um, this was a home experience. Only only apes movies I saw in theaters was War and Kingdom, which I'm sad about. I
What
would
about
love to
for you,
experience
Sammy?
God in a movie theater.
I I wish you would have saw it in the movie theater, Bilal. I actually ended up seeing all of them except for I haven't seen Kingdom yet, but I saw all of the trilogy in theaters. I saw the first one when I was like maybe like 8 or 9 with my uncle. It was a packed theater. It was really good. I personally loved the first movie. At least when I was like younger, I really loved it. Um, but Dawn, I remember seeing like it was a double feature. So they played Rise, and then like right after they played Dawn, and it was like a Thursday night.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool.
it was it was at Regal. It was really good. I remember it was a decently packed theater then too. It was very well received. I remember loving it as a kid. I remember thinking at the moment it wasn't as good as the first one, but I think it's because I just really had this love and attachment for when I went to go see the first one. Because now I definitely think Dawn's better, but yeah, that was my memory of like the first time I saw it.
Okay, for me, I watched this at home for the first time. So it was, I think, around Black Friday of like 2017. Like we were talking about this in I think it was the Kong podcast, Sammy, when I bought all those movies for Black Friday and watched all of them.
Yeah, from Best Buy.
Yeah, not only Best Buy, I got some from Walmart, and I was looking everywhere for War because War just came out, and I was really wanting to see War because I heard great things about it. And I looked everywhere, couldn't find it. Had to go into another town, like the town right beside us, and found it in the Target. Not like our nearest Target, but like the one near the mall.
Okay, yeah, I got you.
That we went to the closest Target, nothing there. So I looked up, of course, at this time we had like right now where you can look up anything in a store if they got it in stock. Of course, they had War in stock. Went over there. I think it was Christmas time. My parents got me the double feature of Rise and Dawn.
Oh hell yeah.
So I waited. I watched Rise before I rewatched that, of course, and watched Dawn and War. So this was back in 2017. I think I first watched it. I think this is my first or second time rewatching it, because I think if I did rewatch it before, it was during the pandemic when it first started, because I wanted to get a good rewatching on that. But of course, we all rewatch it. So let's go with this. So Sammy, what are your spoiler free like thoughts and stuff on this movie?
Spoiler free or spoiler?
Oh, spoiler. Sorry,
No, you're
spoiler.
good. I was just making sure. Spoiler wise, I really think this movie is like the way they introduce all the conflicts and really start off is very strong. They don't really they give you like enough exposition without going overboard. A lot of it is honestly in like the set design. I really like that aspect of it. You can see like the effects of the simian flu and like how humans have reacted to it. To be honest with you, it echoes a lot of The Last of Us, which it came out around the same time. So I wonder if that was like maybe inspiration for set deck, but I don't really, who knows. But as a whole, I just feel like the story plays out really well. Like I said earlier, it kind of plays out like theatrically. Like it feels very like to the point, but it does it in like the story with apes. And it really talks about like the cycles of like what's human, what's ape, what's the difference between them, what's like the evolutionary like jump that the apes are having to recognize that humans, even though they are technically what they evolved from, are actually like no longer like the represented species or like what they want to see as a representation of a species in the world. Um, I think that's definitely an interesting question to ask and an interesting way to look at it, especially considering that after everything that's happened in 10 years, the humans still see the apes as dumb. I thought that was definitely a statement, especially with how that interacts with like Koba.
Oh
Like
yeah,
you think after seeing everyone show up the way they did that they would have a little more respect, but it's the same thing. Um, they kind of show you that no matter how they're looked at, like there's always going to be humans that treat them like animals. And I don't know. I like that you start to see the two blend together and they really play with that. And there's just a lot of moments where you feel the emotion of it. I feel like this is a movie where it's very calm, but then on the split second, it can just flip. And all of a sudden, the story's going in a completely different direction. And I think that's a lot of that has to do with not only the script, but also the way Matt Reeves directs a lot of the scenes, and just having that sense of like, especially like you were saying earlier, Bilal, like the first like 5 to 10 minutes of the film, there's like no dialogue, and
yeah,
it's even though there's a war or there's a fight happening, like at least hunting wise, it's very calm. It feels
yeah,
very like nature centric. Like
yeah,
it doesn't feel like this big all out war scene. And even
yeah,
when he does get to that, it's a massive build up to it. It
yeah,
isn't just
yeah.
sudden,
I
you know.
also really appreciate the opening that has no silence because you really see how these apes are communicating with each other with sign language, and plus, it's so effective of showing their emotions with their like body language instead of them speaking, which is something really clever that Matt Reeves does in the opening and just gets you hooked in right off the bat. Boom. 5-10 minutes, no dialogue, you're into the movie right off the bat. You're right.
And that's the thing, like they already gave you the minimal exposition. You don't really need too much. It's just like, okay, here we are now. And like we're not gonna be consistent. We're jumping. But I think it handles this really well compared to like other franchises where I feel like they kind of have a hiccup with time jumps.
Yeah.
or like how to depict society, like not to be like rude, that not that they don't do it to a decent degree, but there is issues like the DCEU, like the Monsterverse series. Like I feel like there's definitely some times where you're like, wait, I don't really know why this is happening. But like with this movie, it just like it you see where the time jump is, and you're like, okay, that makes sense. I see where we're progressing. I see the apes progressing.
Exactly.
Especially Caesar. Like I feel like Caesar stands out so much because he says so little, but it matters so much. And I think that really speaks for like the writing too, because I feel like a lot of films over explain in Hollywood. And here it's very laid out. It's just very simple. It's very you either pick it up or you don't.
Exactly. And I also really love the dynamics between the characters of Caesar and Koba, especially with them being like these brothers. But like Koba has a like terrible experience with humans. He's been tortured. Understands hatred and his motivations to kill essentially the humans. But Caesar, in the other hand, had one good experience with a human character being Will, and he understands there's good inside of humanity. So having that conflict fall out felt so personal and hits an emotional punch because Caesar and Copa have this brother outbreak. Like they used to love each other, now they hate each other, and it just hits you in the core. Essentially, that's what I like about it. And I
Okay.
think I remember seeing when Jason Clark first shows up or second time he shows up. Like the first time he shows up alone, and the camera is like kind of going like this circle motion. And I really like that scene. Apparently, Matt Reeves didn't have any of the apes there and used like Bucky voices for him to know where to react during that, which was something awesome. I think I just find that out today. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure Matt Reeves used his own monkey noise during that scene, but I'm not too sure about that. But
That's actually pretty awesome if that's true.
yeah, I was looking at like an interview and then I heard something about that today, and I was like, oh, I gotta share that into this podcast because that's just something really awesome. I could send you the video right now on Instagram, but like it's sick.
Dude, yeah, please either now or like later in the like after the stream.
All right,
Well,
Dakota, it's your turn, bro.
okay. So, uh, going off what you said with the beginning, not only the silence, but the camera work in this is Matt Reeves. Of course, we know he's going to do good camera work. The best shot in this movie, there's two, I think, best shots in this movie. And of course, one's the beginning, one's the very end. The beginning is when, of course, like Caesar, you see his eyes, then it's like pans out, then you see his face. Because, of course, he's calling for all the apes to go after the whole crowd of deer that's right there. But this with the silence and like the motion right there, you hear the rain in the forest. And I think that's the best thing about that scene. It shows that they worked with sound and their sound design really well to embrace you into this world. And especially it shows you with the environment around and what San Francisco looks like because of course they're in the redwoods after 10 years and what it has done to San Francisco in these 10 years and how society has crumbled since the simian flu came and destroyed everything. And we found out also later in the movie that the only reason the humans are still alive is there's a gene in them that kind of is immune to this, so it won't kill them. And I really like that aspect of what Matt Reeves does with this because a lot of movies, they're like, oh yeah, these humans are just still alive, but they don't explain it out. Where it's the little details that he has put in this that helps, I think, helps with the story and with the script writing. And like you said, the story of like Caesar and Koba. Caesar's always been with Will ever since he was very little. So he has the love and compassion for humans. Even though when Will did all his stuff during this sense of rise, but by the time of the end of that movie, he still had that friendship with Will that he always had, even though he wanted to stay with the apes in the redwoods. But if you look at Koba, like Bilal said earlier, he is tortured by humans. And of course, if you get tortured and beat up by humans, you have a revenge, a bad sense towards them.
Yeah.
And that's his purpose. Is humans are bad, and of course it interferes because at the beginning we see how Koba and him have a good relationship. I think with the deer singing, and you see later on in the movie it just deteriorates to the point where Koba shoots him.
Yeah, suits him and sets the humans up like to start this whole conflict, which makes me wonder if Copa wasn't in Dawn, would the apes and humans coexist with each other?
See, and I think it's interesting that the film gives you multiple perspectives of each party. So you kind of are left in the air about it. So like you have humans that are super compassionate towards the apes and they want to live in harmony with the apes because now they realize the gene protects them and they can work together to get the power going, right? But then you also have the humans that are still going to treat them like animals. And so like that could lead to the conflict. And but then you also have like the apes perspective too, where like Koba is like dead set that humans are like terrible, and it makes sense because realistically we have tortured animals for simple things such as makeup. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
having his background, like it makes sense. It also makes you as an audience member reflect on how we treat animals and
yeah,
how we view how we would view an animal if they were evolving and we couldn't comprehend that they were evolving. Because I
yeah,
think that's a lot of this movie too, is like humans fighting the realization that apes are evolving again
exactly.
past them.
But I also like Maurice as a character because Maurice is like one of the only apes that's sees the bad sides of humanity, but he has the heart that is like, oh, I could empathize with humans, right? So Maurice is like that real one with Caesar, and he just ride and die for Caesar all the time. Always has Caesar's back.
And
But
but he's lovable and he's like trying to teach and he's trying to continue to learn. And like, I think seeing and having those characters like in their different personalities represented here and seeing how they like function as their society, like he's their teacher.
yeah,
You know what I mean? That's a massive role.
yeah,
And I feel like they understand from the first movie where to put these characters for the
yeah.
sequel.
I mean, in the beginning, when the humans first arrive and they just accidentally shot two apes, Caesar was like pissed, but like in the same time, he understood why they would react that way because they were
And that
scared.
and that's what makes him alpha is that he can read the situation. And that's why he leads these people. Like I think another thing that really defines the movie for me is the very end of it. Kind of what you were saying earlier, Dakota, like it sets up war really well. He's kind of like, I know what the reality is now and that we can have this. We can be at peace, but it's too late.
Yeah,
Like
because
we
I
fucked
think Matt
up.
Reeves said in an interview that Dawn was the only chance for the apes and humans to coexist with each other.
And it just like it's gone. And
It's
he
gone. Yeah,
recognizes that. And I like that he almost like apologizes to Jason Clarke's character, but he's kind of also like, I need you to see this with me and know that I tried.
yeah,
And they just kind of have this neutral, like it isn't good. Like it's neutral. You know what I mean? It's kind
yeah,
of like, oh, like things are not good, but like at least they're at even like they're at odds with each other, not at odds with each other. You know what I mean? They go off on a good note, but I don't know. I thought that was definitely like, I feel like once again, like Caesar, when he talks, it's very important and it's very much like what they're trying to express to the audience. really well, at least the writers. And that ending very much, I forgot that initially. So when rewatching it, that stuck with me very much at the very end.
Yeah. I mean, there was one human character was really pissing me off in the beginning. I don't know the actor's name, but the guy with the mustache.
Oh yeah, he was a yeah.
He
Yeah.
he he was really pissing me off during the whole time. I was so happy when Koba finally killed him. This the only time I empathize with Koba. It's like, yeah, Koba.
Are you
But like,
talking about the? Are you talking about the one that shoots his rocket son?
yeah,
Can we talk about the scene with Ash and Koba?
I was about to get into that actually.
Because that
That
scene's crazy.
I forgot about that scene so much, and because of course they all think Caesar's dead, right? And Caesar's son is behind Koba, because of course he shot Ash, and one he thinks that the humans killed his father. And to be honest, when Koba throws Ash off the balcony thing, yeah, the
yeah,
balcony, it shows to Caesar's son that it's actually Koba that actually did it.
yeah,
There's something up with Koba that is not right,
But it's also like a
because
power play too. You know what I mean? Go
because
ahead.
of
I didn't mean
course
to interrupt.
you're good, because of course Ash says we still listen to Caesar, even though Caesar's gone. Caesar still has the rule, and not only that, I think that carries out through this franchise really well. From this trilogy into the newer one, even though you haven't seen it, Sammy, that Caesar's rule is his rule, and you don't change
yeah.
Caesar's rule.
Okay, that's really cool.
Yeah, like I
I'm
mean,
excited to see that.
Kingdom does take place 300 years later, but you really see that Caesar's impact carries on for generations, which is something really awesome to see Westball do. I mean, he
And
has so much care for it.
And Caesar also comes off as like a savior, like a messiah figure for these apes,
Yeah,
in a sense. Like he leads them to freedom and to being the next thing that rules the earth.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so that makes
I
sense that
mean,
he would live as a generational figure.
yeah. You know what? I also like that Caesar let Jason Clark's character do whatever they need to do for their business and stuff like that. But I like the scene when Caesar was talking to the humans and said, "We don't want war, but we have to. We must." It shows. It shows he wants to be friends with these humans, but if they mess with him, he's gonna start his war because
Like see
he wants to protect his apes. That's the main priority of his.
like Caesar started reading like old like Roman like generals and like emperors and like
Shakespeare,
studied. Yeah,
Robert
he just
Shakespeare.
studied, man. Yeah, he got his literature down in a decade.
I love every bit of Juliet minus the romance. There's no romance in it, but
But the rest of it, that
yeah, the
checks
rest
out.
of like it is a little bit Romeo and Juliet in there.
But that's what I really like about this movie, that I wish, as much as I love Matt Reeves' style with Batman, I kind of wish he plays this a little bit more in the next one. Like very much like it feels like I'm watching a play sometimes, but like in the best way possible. Like the way he uses wides in this movie, but like he'll do a mix between like a medium long where it's very tight and it could be a close up, but you still get the full body because they're apes. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
exactly. Yeah.
Or you get like a wide where it feels like you're seeing like this grand spectacle, and these actors are really putting in everything into their
Yeah, and,
movement,
and it's
into their
definitely
face.
crazy that Annie Circus never got Oscar for Caesar, bro.
it's
I
because that Academy don't like mocap.
Yeah, but I'll be honest. I feel like that's something I could see changing very soon, especially considering how much the gaming industry is revered now for storytelling, and that a lot now most like computer animation with gaming is mocap.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just hope one day we get to that point where it starts to be recognized, because they finally started recognizing it for visual effects. I believe either with this movie or War with the Academy.
Yeah. Oh, also, I love that when Copa takes over, he does kind of use Caesar's slang being apes together strong, but he like twists it in its like own like evil plan of like going after these humans, which is something great. And obviously, the final battle when Copa thinks Caesar is like standing up for humans, but reality Caesar's trying to like coexist humans with the apes. But I also like when obviously the final battle when Copa says Caesar weak, and then Caesar comes back Copa weaker. But because Copa is the weaker person physically and mentally, bro, you know. He doesn't understand that there's a good side of humanity. He's just blinded by this hatred that just brings him to this really dark path inside of Dawn. It's just such great character development for the main villain because A, you understand his motives. B, you know he's wrong, but you understand where he's coming from.
And also, like, I feel like with Koba, at some point, he represents more than just an antagonist.
Yeah.
Like, he becomes like almost a fascist dictator esque thing that
Yeah.
we've seen in our own history. I mean,
Yeah.
he's throwing, not to fully put it in that comparison, but they take it to that level with him throwing humans in camps and stuff and manipulating the apes into committing this mass
Yeah.
crime and murder and
Yeah. And
genocidal behavior. And that's what Caesar recognizes, is almost like there is a side of us
yeah.
that is awful that you
Yeah.
have to stop. And that's the
Yeah.
same with humans. And I really like that they almost do that kind of like supremacy message towards the end, where it's like this has to be suppressed, and they do it
Exactly.
through the apes. Like I missed that as a kid, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Because you're not thinking about that at like 11 or 12 when you're gonna go see apes with like guns on horses.
Yeah,
But
I,
like
I
it's
I
amazing.
also another thing about Koba is when Caesar wasn't around, he was like human did bad thing, but the humans never did anything. It was like human bad out of nowhere, and then he's like talking to the other apes about it, and then Caesar doesn't tell Caesar anything about it, and like he just kind of lies to Caesar saying the humans did something bad when they didn't even do anything.
And he's just playing them, bro. And
Yeah.
it's just, I don't know.
Also, like I like the way he plays Dom during like the alcohol scene.
That's what I'm saying. Like he knows how to like manipulate people. He
Yeah, he
can
knows that.
manipulate the people and the apes, which makes him a massive threat.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and like I said, it doesn't work with Toby Campbell's performance. Like his performance as Copa was, like Copa was funny, but oh my god, same time he was terrifying.
Oh, yeah, and he's horrific in a. I like the way they present his look is like very obvious, like a villain, but
Yeah,
at times like it also reflects the thing that made him a villain, the
yeah,
abuse he's been through.
yeah,
Like it's not just, oh, he looks like a bad guy because he's got scars. It's like,
yeah,
no,
and
this is why he's doing this,
yeah.
is because of those scars. Like,
Yeah, and the scene when the humans find Caesar just laying down, wounded, obviously, and then they talk to Caesar. It's like, no, Copa did. Copa was the ape that shot me, and then the humans were helping Caesar because ghost humans like what Caesar was doing. They understand that Caesar wants them to be together, right?
and they have some sort of compassion
Yeah, they
compared
have
to how some apes don't
compassion. They
see
have
it.
empathy for Caesar, which is something I absolutely love in this movie. But I also love the interaction later on in the movie when Caesar's son, like they're running to Caesar's son. He's like, "Your father's right there," and then you have like a little awesome father son moment that just was so wholesome.
And I just love that, like, when it has those moments, like it's subtle, but it's enough. Like it doesn't go overboard, over emotional, but like it needs to happen, and they make time for that to happen. It doesn't ever feel like anyone's an afterthought, or like anything that's going on is an afterthought. Like when we cut back to his wife, for example, being sick, like that wasn't an afterthought. It's like
Yeah,
now she's sick. And he was there for her at the beginning of the film when she delivers his second kid.
yeah.
But yeah, overall, this movie is amazing, man.
Yeah, this
I love
movie
it.
is peak. Like I said, the final battle felt personal. Every punch hit hard between pause. Whoa, hit hard pause. Hit nicely pause. The final fight felt
Felt good.
You
pause.
got it.
Okay, the final battle.
Looked amazing. There you go.
Okay, the final battle was crazy. It was a personal. You feel every punch. And I love the way they end this fight. With Caesar saying, "You are not ape," before killing Koba. Epic moment, especially with the themes of Caesar saying "ape don't kill ape" during the whole sequence, and I thought that was beautifully executed, and just sets the tone of war really well. So Dakota, let's have you talk for a bit, me and Sam.
Yeah, we kind of just riffing.
Yeah, my bad. I'm sorry. I forgot about you, brother.
You're good. There's a lot of things that when you guys were talking came into my head. So when I was watching Kingdom today, and I want to know from you, Bilal, right now, Dawn has a lot to do with Kingdom.
Yeah, it does.
I feel like the trailers showed it a little bit, but after watching the movie, like Westball wanted to, when he was making this new trilogy, he wanted to feel like these movies. And I think what he took most from was this movie. And after like rewatching it this yesterday, watching this today, Kingdom today shows a lot.
Yeah.
And I really like it, but there's two scenes that really I love. One of them is always stuck in my head. It's the scene of when Caesar comes back and everyone knows that he's alive now. It's the scene when he's walking across the crane.
Yeah.
And you see all the fire behind him with the apes. I love that scene. And the second scene, I'm going to ask you guys if this room, because of course, Matt Reeves directed this and Batman. The ending scene, when after Caesar talks to Jason Clark's character,
Mason,
if I can remember his name.
Mason, I think.
No, it's not Mason. I'll remember it later on.
Wait, I'll look it up right now.
I think it's Marcus.
Malcolm.
Yeah, it's Malcolm.
Okay, it's Malcolm. So after he talks to Malcolm, you see him turn around and look at all the apes because he knows what's going to be coming soon. It's the war. Does the orange and red in that scene not remind you of when it's when Falcone, no, it's not Falcone, it's when Penguin, Catwoman, Batman, and Gordon are on top of the building and they're talking, and you see that sunset.
Yeah.
It reminded me a lot of that scene.
Yeah, and I have another connection. I did a TikTok video on it, but I'll talk about that war. But there's a scene in war that's very similar to the Batman.
Here, wait, I'm seeing if it's the same cinematographer.
It has to be, right?
I didn't know.
Usually it is whenever it's like a director.
Okay. It's not Greg Fraser. Greg Fraser did that. It's not Greg Fraser. I was looking that up during the movie. When I was watching the movie.
You're right. He did this and War, but he didn't do Batman.
He didn't do Batman?
Not that guy, sorry. The cinematographer for Dawn. Michael Saracen.
He did what also? He did what?
He did War as well. He did Dawn and War. He did other films. He's been in it since the 70s.
Because I know Greg Fraser did the Batman. And everyone loves the Batman and Dune's cinematography. And there was a point in this when I thought it was Greg Fraser. It's that when the Koba and all the apes come into the town that Gary Oldman's character has made. and there were some shots in there. I'm like, this feels like the Batman, and it's so close to it. So I don't know if Matt Reeves had a piece of like advice to Greg Fraser and be like, can you shoot some scenes like this and this? Because this movie seems so similarly cinematography wise to the Batman. And I don't know, because it could be for War, but the problem with War and Dawn is War's set in the snow. So it's hard to do cinematography in the snow like it is just in the
I mean, like,
regular summer.
yeah, remember the second attack when it got like all pitch black, but the only time you saw lightning was the soldiers gun shooting? And then you see the cave scene, the Batman, it was the exact same parallel. It was like shot the exact same way. That was something I was like, I did a TikTok video on. I'm like, oh, when I was seeing War, I noticed that. I'm like, oh shit, I see what Matt Reeves did there. But apparently did it practically. Like there was like it was shot in the light, but somehow they just make it dark somehow. I know I'm not sure how they fully did that scene. I'd definitely go take a look into it.
It's probably like soundstage with like lighting.
Yeah.
Because like there's different lighting schemes you can do like in a soundstage to replicate like nighttime.
Yeah.
It just depends on like location and like what you are. Like if you're in a house, for example, like you can do moonlight in like different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only thing I don't know for sure, you know what I mean? But that's like
I
what comes to mind for
definitely
me.
gotta do my research on that. That's something that's inspired me to do more of research how these movies are made more.
Yeah,
Right?
dude. I mean, production BTS is really important. I feel like,
Yeah,
especially to
like
like how certain
yes, we talk about how much we love these stories. Yes, we talk about how much we love these actors, these directors. But we got like I personally need to dive into like, well, how did they shot this scene? Like, why do I love this scene so much? How is this made? Like that curiosity needs to come to my head and do my research on it.
dude. And
Like,
it's just a lot, man. There's so many different elements, and it's one of those things where it's like certain things that you want will take as long as they need to take. You know
yeah,
what I mean? And there's always there's always gonna be something wrong. Like even if you have everything right, there's gonna be one thing that's like, okay, we gotta compensate for that, or we gotta work around that. And there's there's so many crazy stories with people on sets and shit that it's insane to see
yeah,
how movies come out the way they are, especially
yeah,
with
exactly.
high budgets, man.
Yeah. Like, I wonder what type of camera they use for these like wide shots and stuff. Like, especially
They
in Dawn.
they
I
might have
wonder
shot on IMAX.
They
that's
might
what I'm
try to
thinking.
IMAX, but I'm not sure though.
I think Matt Reeves loves to film in IMAX. I think the
I'm
only
trying to
one he did do in
see.
IMAX was Cloverfield. I'm thinking he did that in 70 or 35.
Camera did Apes use.
But like what Sammy was saying, like in you, Sammy, do you learn a lot about the camera work and shots and stuff in your film
Yeah,
school? What
it
you're
depends
doing?
on the classes. So for this, I'm looking at it now. They shot at an ARRI Alexa M, which like ARRI is like industry standard. Um, a lot of what they shoot on now is either ARRI, Black Magic. A lot of like YouTube stuff is shot on Black Magic or like documentaries, and then like Ursa's, and then what is it called? I think it's Red Komodo. Yeah, Red Komodo is like gotten really big, and like a lot of streaming services shoot with Red Komodo. Like I think David Fincher used it for The Killer on his last film.
So is that technically digital or is that film?
That one I believe is digital. Yeah, Red Komodo's digital. Ari, I believe
Is that film?
Ari does have film. Yeah, there's digital, and then there is film ones.
And you said which one was this filmed with?
It was filmed with. Here, wait, let me backtrack.
Was it the Ari?
Yeah, it was the Ari Alexa M.
Because
Which
I have a feeling just the way this movie looks and feels, like visually.
I wonder if they use like a dolly for like those move away shots too, right? Like,
No,
Because
the dollies had to be insane, especially for like the rock scenes.
Yeah.
Like I can't imagine how they had the layout for that. Which dolly layouts are. It definitely takes a minute, so it's impressive to see like how some dolly shots are like. You can tell when a director really loves, like, is impressed with their dolly layout, and they'll have some crazy shot.
Yeah,
Like
like for example, like Christopher Nolan, just this guy's crazy. But like Inception, remember that dream fight scene in the hotel? He actually
yeah,
used like a rotation set that just moves in circles and circles to um make it look like it was in zero gravity, and you have Joseph Gordon-Levitt and fighting there. That must be so hard to do. Apparently, there's like 500 co-workers during that to make sure everyone was safe, bro. Like it's
oh yeah, because I mean, like, you can't risk crew, you can't risk talent. You have to make sure talent's comfortable, and like depending on who is there and what they are, whoever they are on set is not how they look on TV. You know what I'm saying? Like there's stories I've heard from people who, like, I knew somebody that worked with Ellen, and they were like, yeah, that was all true. Like, she was awful to work for.
yeah,
And just stuff like that, or like crazy behind the scenes. Like, I've heard, I don't really want to like shout out any names on here in case, like, you know what I'm saying, like, you movies or anything, but there was like a couple actors that I was shocked. I was like, oh wow, okay, I didn't know they acted like that. You know what I mean? And granted, that's one person's perspective. That's not like actually knowing the person, you know, who knows what's going on in whose life. But there's so, dude, because like sets are like, if you mess up safety on a set, that's a big deal.
yeah,
And you're starting to see that now in a way. Like, the industry's always, like, at least recently, has been very big on that, but especially now with like what's going on with the Alec Baldwin case, like, it's very
that's what I
important.
was going to start talking about.
Yeah.
Because I heard I was at work the other day and some people were talking about that, and I'm thinking, because I think the case is supposed to like come to trial very soon, and it's looking like to the point of like he's going to be guilty for it.
And it's one of those things where like they've been super back and forth on it, but whatever they decide on definitely impacts how the industry moves forward with that. And it also brought up the argument of having real weapons on a set, even if it is for practical use and there is an armorer. I mean, they had everything they needed, and the person just didn't do their job at the end of the day. You
Another
know what I mean?
movie, another movie that reminds me of a lot of that is The Crow
Yeah,
with the Brandon Lee accident.
yeah, for sure. Or like a couple years ago, like they were shooting the last Resident Evil, and
yeah.
somebody fell off, and like that shit happens all the time, and
All
it's
right. So I have some
yeah,
questions about Dawn.
yeah. Back to
No,
back
okay.
to
Can I
the
talk about one thing before the questions? I want to talk about the score.
Oh,
yeah.
So I just looked up. Michael Giacchino actually done the score because Bilal. We remember how we were talking in the Rise, and I thought the score went with Michael Giacchino so well. He actually done this and War, and you just feel it because of course he done the Batman score. So he's like, it's kind of like the way Hans Zimmer or Ludwig Göransson is with Christopher Nolan, or kind of like Hans is with Denis. I think they got that relationship, but the score sets up. So, but it's like the beginning. Not only you got the rank, but you got that score just starting up, and you know it's gonna be intense, and especially with the ending with that Koba and Caesar fight scene. And not only that, during that scene, you got the humans with Jason Clark and Gary Oldman's character having their conflict down there also. So it builds tension, and I think that's what is so good about these great composers doing scores like this, because not only them, the directors like Matt Reeves know where to put it, because directors have hearsay also to put certain songs in certain scenes. Because the biggest example of who did this wrong was David Gordon Green in The Exorcist Believer. Because of course the Exorcist theme song is very well known, and people have said, and I thought this a little bit too. There are some scenes in that movie where you could drop that theme song in, kind of like how the original director did, and makes the movie good. But overall, I that's about it for me. Let's start with those questions below.
All right, first question. What's the most impressive scene in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes?
For me, I would either say the scene when they invade inside, like when they get into the colony,
Yeah.
or I really think the scene with Koba and Ash is really like you don't expect it to matter as much as it does.
Yeah.
And it kind of to me is that big pivotal moment where Koba is now like separating himself fully from the apes to be this like dictator figure, the alpha ape, and he doesn't really care about his actions, including killing
Yeah.
one of his like brother's sons. And it's done in a very like subtle and poetic way, almost like you don't like there's not massive buildup, there's not really a score buildup, it just kind of happens, and you know what's going to happen halfway through, and you just kind of have to sit and watch. um I don't know, that scene to me just really stuck out in a way that I wasn't expecting, especially with Ash's response. You
Yeah.
don't expect that. You expect Ash to follow through, and then he
Yeah.
doesn't.
I mean, for me, it's still gotta be the opening. Like, it takes a lot of balls for a director to do an opening with no dialogue and make it interesting for the audience to be hooked during the first 5-10 minutes. And it really does grab your attention for the whole movie. And it really sets a tone on how Dawn is gonna play out. And that's the main thing is you don't see any other director doing a scene. Well, let's start this movie with no dialogue. You don't see any director doing that, right? It's a very rare
Yeah.
thing. And then Matt Reeves has like that boldness to do something like that, but make it work and make it great in this movie, which is so impressive. And I also love the shots in this movie, like in the opening. There's like a lot of nice shots, a lot close up, mixture of close up and like wide shots, which I really appreciate. Yeah.
So the scene that is most impressive to me is the ending scene of when the Malcolm and Caesar are talking, because you're thinking that it's going to be a great thing and that the apes and humans are going to coexist. But Caesar knows that there's going to be a war coming because of this, because of what Cobra screwed up, and he's just in for it now. He's ready for it. There's no backing down from this. He knows that what's going to be coming is war.
Okay.
Law.
My next question is, do you think Toby Kebbell's performance isn't really talked about enough as Koba? Because they talk like most of the time I see people talk about Koba, but they don't talk about who's playing Koba. If that makes sense.
I definitely feel like Tony Campbell's performance here like has to be shown in the same regard as Andy Serkis. He's on that same level. He carries the same energy, if not more in his own way. But I overall feel like it's an element, to be honest, I forgot about of this film, and I think it's because it's not as like hit home that this is somebody to remember as a massive like impact like post this movie. I mean, outside of the actions, like yeah, the actions are important, but like let me give you an example. Like I, I had to recap Koba rewatching the movie, like and the movie series ended like 6-7 years ago. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like versus like I can remember Caesar clear as day, even
Yeah.
though I haven't seen the movies in years. I definitely feel like he's underrated in the long as a villain.
Yeah.
And needs to
Exactly.
be seen in that regard as Caesar is, because I feel like he's on that level
Yeah.
more than War. If I'm being real, like I remembered liking War, but I remembered feeling like the threat, even though the threat was big, it wasn't Koba. Like there was just something special there that they
Yeah,
really
but
got.
the thing about Koba is it affected Caesar wards too. Like that's how powerful of a villain he really was. Even when he's dead, Caesar's thinking about him, which we'll dive into further war, obviously.
But I mean, that's and just having that element alone where he leaves that big of a lasting impact should be enough proof that they need to have that character has to be remembered more or more remarked when bringing up the new trilogy. Well, not now. There's a new series, but the prequel trilogy.
Yeah,
Okay. For me, I think he does. I think he should be well known for this, but there's two things. One, his filmography is not that great. If you guys think about this, he plays Doctor Doom in Fantastic.
Who?
Toby Kebbell.
Yeah, that was right after too.
So a lot more people think about him in that than in Dawn. And a lot of people, like you said, you guys said, it's Andy Serkis everyone thinks about when they go into this. They don't think about Toby Kebbell as Koba when they talk about the villain because, like, when you talk about greatest villains of all time, it's Heath Ledger as the Joker. Or right now, Austin Butler as Fade Ralpha. You never hear Toby Kebbell as Koba. You always hear Koba. But, like, if you hear Caesar, it's Andy Serkis as Caesar.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and everyone
And I
love
feel
Andy
like
Serkis's like behind the scenes.
Toby Kebbell has to get way more credit for Koba. If it wasn't Toby Kebbell, it was someone else, it wouldn't work whatsoever. And
I think what
like Koba is one of the best villains in this century, man. Like he's up there of being one of the best villains out there. And
I agree with that.
that's all because of Toby Kebbell. I don't see anyone else replace a Toby Kebbell.
At least for that role, I agree.
So what I was thinking is you kind of see him becoming like to turn against like Caesar and everybody in Rise because of course he wants to kill Will at the end because he's in the lab,
Yeah. You
and then you see that little conflict of when Caesar like pushes him out of the way because of course Will was his father like growing up, and no one hurts Will, and you kind of see it because like when me and mom were watching these, like she never watched any of these. So I told her that Koba was going to be the bad guy in the second one. And she saw when he pushed Koba out of the way to protect Will, she realized this is what starts this. But overall, I think what really, because we see a little tease of Koba in what he is in Rise, right? But I think Matt Reeves brings it all out in this movie. And I think it's like I said, with him writing the script, he takes what is little bit you get a sneak peek of in Rise because they could have gone anywhere with Dawn, to be honest with you, with the new director, with him as director.
That's true.
But he took the story, what I think is what Rupert Wyatt did, and he carries it on with the ending of Rise. And I really enjoy that. And like you said, it's Toby Kebbell. I think nobody else could outdo this performance. His mannerisms, his facial expressions, the way he is. And like he has so much range in this role also because not only he goes from the evil sadistic bad guy to the funniness of when like you guys were saying with the alcohol scene, like he's like playing these guys up that he's like stupid, he's funny and stuff. And all of a sudden he just like can like switch. And that's acting. Because there's only certain amount of actors I know that can do that. Not a lot of them can't. And that's why I think, like Bilal said, people need to look because I always think of like Austin Butler and Heath Ledger. as like the biggest villains right now in like the last 20 years. But we need to start looking at
Austin
Toby Kebbell.
Butler already there? I'm not sure about that, Chief.
I think he's good. No, he's okay. He's good, but rewatch it over. I watched Dune 3 times, right?
I don't
Watch it a
think
little bit closer at Austin Butler's character as Fade.
I don't know about that one.
I
Chief.
don't know about that, bro.
But
At this point, you're
perfect
overrating
example of
his
Toby
performance, bro.
Kebbell reminds me of Toby Kebbell, and this dude gets so much love off this movie. It's Javier Bardem as Anton Sugar.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm gonna tell you the best villain in the last 20 years right now.
You better say Heath Ledger as the Joker.
No,
I
we
don't know.
all know.
Hans Landa is Christoph Waltz does good. I haven't seen Inglourious Basterds, but I heard he was a great performer. Does he give you see it, Bilal? Does he give a great performance in that
Yes.
movie?
Yes, he does.
Does he rack up there with top 10 villains of the past 20 years?
Yes.
Why isn't it telling me who plays this character, bro?
Okay, tell me the
It's
character.
Death in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish.
Oh my goodness. It's a well-known actor too. I will find it before y'all because
I'm not looking up. It's on me.
Uh,
You know what the
Okay, go
best
ahead.
villain is? Zack Snyder for screwing up DC.
Dude,
yeah,
dude, you know, it's the dude from Civil War.
Oh,
I haven't seen it still. I know.
It's Joel from Civil War. That's who plays Death.
Wait, I'm gonna go to Civil War real quick.
uh,
Also, have y'all seen Challengers? On a side note,
Yes.
I
I love
haven't.
Challengers.
I'm excited to see it.
I'll wait for streaming.
Heard?
I'm waiting for streaming. I'm too awkward to see today.
Sorry for distracting you guys. Okay, little plug for last podcast episode. I reviewed Challengers. If you guys want to go see that, check out the episode. That's episode 16 of the Cinematic Boys podcast.
Y'all, if you like anything from Luca Guadagnino, and this is a shout out for the podcast too, he has a very underrated limited series that came out on HBO in 2020 called We Are Who We Are. It is amazing. It's got Jack Glazer in it. It's got Martin Scorsese's daughter in it, Francis Scorsese, and it is a banger. The score is done by Devontae Hines, who is Blood Orange on the side for like his music. It's so good. This is just side note if you love anything from Luca Guadagnino. So go watch that.
And Bones and all also.
Yeah, and Bones and all, because it's criminally underrated.
Yes, but I tell you what, go watch that movie.
It's a hard one to watch. I'll give it to you. I watched people walk out of theater. I couldn't eat during it, but it is a phenomenal movie, and it is real love. It's scary how much you start to see it.
That getting to Toby Kebbell, I'm gonna tell you an actor that's in that movie. It's Timothy Chalamet. Timmy has what Toby does. If he can he could act a certain way, then he could change it.
I thought we were talking about Dawn, bro.
No, that's what I'm saying. Toby Kebbell. When I was talking about actors, how Toby Kebbell in that scene for the alcohol scene, from goofy to serious, it's Doom Part 2 for me. Of when Paul switches to the Lisa El Gaib.
See, I see what you're saying, but
people look at Timmy for that and what he does with that. And like what we were saying, people don't look at Toby for Koba. They should because of that.
I think it's the mocap too. Like you gotta. That's the thing with like people like Timothy Chalamet. Anyone that goes to a theater and goes to see a movie will at least have an idea of Timothy Chalamet, and they're gonna show him in the movie with mocap, especially with if like say it's just a random audience member that just loves the Planet of the Apes movies, they're not gonna know who it is because they're watching a CG ape. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that like the mocap aspect of it definitely is part of that, and I feel like only recently in media and in Hollywood we've started to recognize like the intricacies and like the nuances of acting in mocap and recognizing that because it very much came out in a time where mocap for film was now getting to a place where it was like outside of Peter Jackson, of course, like it was getting to a place where it was really good and really consistent and stable and they could rely on it. And now but it still wasn't respected in the same light, and now we're starting to see that at least a little bit more with how Hollywood like is treating and addressing like especially like VFX. Now they're almost over dependent on mocap.
All right.
Next question below.
My last question. All right. So if Copa didn't interfere with Caesar, do you think the humans and the apes would have found a way to coexist and war would have happened?
Yes.
I as much as I say that it definitely would have been prevented in this situation, I think long term, not really. And the only reason I say that is because I feel like Caesar at the end kind of realizes that there are bad apes, like that there are apes that are not morally or ethically right, or that there's something wrong. And so I think with that discovery comes the idea that there are more people like Koba and that there is a probability of another ape attacking. I mean, who's to say one of the hundreds of apes that live with them already doesn't feel the same way as Koba and just hasn't been in a situation to act on it in the same way that it, you know what I'm saying? That's kind of the way I look at it, at least. While I do think it is preventable, considering like Caesar is the person that started everything in the entirety. So if you're gonna find a resolution, start with the source. Um, I just feel like the way the movie presents the ending, it kind of leaves you with like there's gonna be conflict whether Caesar's there or not. And when Caesar was there, conflict still happened. That was
Yeah.
out of his control. And that's nature, that's life. I mean, that's with any creature or animal. You know what I mean? We're the same way. I mean, like you can try to have everything under control and somebody will come along and their motives and their hatred will overpower that sometimes. And that's sad, but that's reality, you
Yeah.
know? No, but that's also why I love this movie a lot. It feels really grounded for what it does and how it's presented.
Oh
Like
yeah.
it really talks about a lot of big ideas that you have to look at and examine throughout human history, and now look at it through a whole different species' lens.
Okay,
Okay.
below. Oh, you
You
want me
go.
to go first or you want to go first?
Here, wait, one of
You
you,
go
you
ahead.
go.
I have another question. You go ahead though.
Okay, so I think yes, it could prevent it. Sammy could be right about another ape being mad, like wanting to go against Caesar. But the thing with any other ape in Koba is Koba had a special relationship with Caesar as a like a brother.
That's a fair point.
If you're a lower ape, you're not gonna mess with the top ape, and that's the only thing I think it could happen. Later on, the humans might just go against the apes, might get tired of it, because especially when you see what happens in the later movies of what happens to the humans, like me and Bilal will, once you see Kingdom, you will understand of what the simian flu does to humans. That could be the point of humans turning against apes and there being a war. But I think if Koba never interfered, I think it would have gone a lot longer.
Yeah.
To a point
And
where I think it would have been great, I think, for Caesar and his group.
yeah.
I could definitely agree with that, man. Because
All
I
right.
feel like it's definitely something that could later on get worse, you know? Like it's not necessarily in the moment.
All right. So my next question is, what things did you felt like the different directing style from Ruben Wyatt and Matt Reeves? What different changes did you feel that benefited the story of this franchise even further with Matt Reeves' style over Ruben Wyatt's?
I definitely think like tone and presentation, like editing wise, was a big one for me. Like I feel like Rise, as great of a movie as it is, it's a very bright film.
Yeah,
It's a very light film, at least when it comes to like background. Matt Reeves is a lot more like dark in presentation. It's a lot, but like not in a bad way. It's just like naturally dark, depending like because they're in the forest. Um, the tone of it is a lot more, even from like you said, the opening scene. Like it just feels different. It's not as it's not trying to explain to you as much as it is just trying to like present to you these situations happening. Um, and it has I feel like it has a lot more to say about the apes than the first movie because the first movie's busy setting up how everything starts.
yeah,
And now Matt Reeves comes in with his perspective on what the apes conflicts, ideals, and their philosophy over the last 10 years and what's growing out of it and what is going to be. Um I definitely feel like both have good perspectives though. Like I think Rupert tackles the first film really well in just setting it up, but also especially towards the end, like the last scene is a lot more like smoky. There's a lot more grays on the San Francisco Bridge. At least in my opinion, with like the way it's presented, that kind of echoes like where it's going in that kind of direction, at least for Dawn. But even then, Dawn feels distinctly just very different and for the better. I think it understands that audiences were wanting a Hollywood film, but they were wanting a really good reason for why they're seeing this again. And they give it to you in Dawn.
yeah,
It's like, okay, here's why we're talking about this movie again 50 years later with a new story.
yeah. And I definitely think that Matt Reeves took what Ruben wanted and just expanded even further, like I said before. But this doesn't feel like a Hollywood movie to me. It legit doesn't feel like a Hollywood movie. And that's a good thing. That's in fact a fantastic thing because it feels original. It feels fresh. It feels great to watch this movie, especially with the themes that it tackles and the conflicts between humans and apes is so well played together that you can really relate to what's happening in this movie to real world events.
Especially looking back with COVID now. Like I feel like
Oh
the
yeah,
intro
this movie did
definitely has
not
a weird.
age well, man. This
I forgot about that intro too. I just remembered the ending of the first movie where they start showing it and you're like, ah,
like
that's where it's going.
did Matt Reeves like predict COVID-19?
Yeah, Matt Reeves created.
Okay, I
Okay,
can't hear you.
Sammy, you're muted. Sam,
Sam,
you're
Sam,
still
I
muted,
am.
bro.
You're still muted. I
Okay,
did
let me go my thoughts while he fixes this. If you need to leave the call and join back, I could talk. So for me, what the what separates the two directors is, like I already said before, it's the camera work of Matt Reeves and the cinematography. Like Sammy said, it's the bright and darkness, like the bright of Rise, and you see the darkness in Dawn and War over time. And that's why I really enjoyed, because like you guys said, it don't feel like a Hollywood movie. It feels like a good movie. Like it feels like a spectacle, but not a spectacle that everyone would go see. It's like only the ones that really love film or the Planet of the Apes movies will go see. But besides that, I think it's the grounded part because I feel like it was more fantastic and stuff in probably Rise. But Matt Reeves is always a grounded director. And he set the story up so grounded, like The Village. Like these people are having a hard time. They don't got enough power. They don't got most enough food. They have made this village after this 10 years after the simian flu. And overall, where was I trying to get to this? Boss punches background back there. But overall, I think he's just it's just a good thing what he done for this franchise. Because people always think when they look at this franchise, it's the Matt Reeves franchise, but no. But his two films are the best out of this trilogy. And you see why in everything I just said. But Bilal, do you have any other questions for us?
No, that's it, bro.
Also, Sammy, is your mic working, bro? Sammy, you gotta leave the call, bro. Leave the call and join back.
I did remember I ended anyways, right?
Just unplugged
No,
it. Did that work?
No, okay, we're good. We're good.
Are you good? You good?
I'm not gonna touch it, so we're good.
Yeah, we're good.
All right.
So, of course, let's get into the meat and bones of the after part of this Rotten Tomatoes score prediction time. But first of all, was that it for both of you for Dawn?
Yeah.
Okay.
Every
So
time
let's predict that.
almost 2 hours, but I'm never good now, man.
Let's talk. Let's predict that score though.
All right. I think
do you think,
audience is gonna be like an 80, 88.
I think audience gonna be 94.
Okay.
I'm going high.
I'm gonna go easy, crisp 92, 93 for Rotten Tomatoes critic score.
Audience is 88.
Wow. And critics is 92.
91.
Ooh.
So
I work for Rotten Tomatoes, by the way. That's cat's out of the bag. So that's how this.
okay, what do you guys predict the box office total was?
3 billion.
It grossed more than Avatar twice.
Oh wait, is this like worldwide or US only?
Yeah, worldwide.
1 billion.
Do some predictions. Sammy, what's your prediction, bro?
I'm gonna say like 700 million international.
1 billion. Come on, man. It has a billion.
710.
I feel like I would hear about this movie being $1 billion movie.
710.6 million.
For
Worldwide.
International? Or okay. What
That's
about
worldwide.
domestic?
Okay, let me go to.
I'm gonna guess for domestic it's gonna be like 400 to 500.
Let me look. What the heck? It's Sammy. It's Sammy. So, Sammy, domestic was 208 million.
I think Sam's mute again.
Sammy, you're mute again, bro.
I feel like Sammy broke something, man.
But
This is the Target headphones are showing. Yeah, I definitely think that's impressive. It made more overseas than domestic.
505 million.
Yeah,
overseas.
That's actually kind of crazy. That makes me that kind of makes me wonder why it didn't do as well domestically. Not that it did bad domestically; it cleared its budget, but like Strange.
I think
Anyway,
it's probably the darker tone.
and like
you
you
gotta
said,
think
maybe
off
it's
of
like
Rise
Planet of the
also.
Apes. Yeah, like you have to watch the first one kind of deal. So
And I don't know. I think a lot of people didn't like Rise, so they thought, "Oh yeah, let's not go see Dawn."
Rise was a mixed bag. Like some people really loved it, some people did not like it.
But let's go into our next thing. What is our rankings, boys?
I'm gonna
Out of
say
5
4 and a
stars.
half. I'm gonna say 4.5 easy.
5.
5.
I don't know. I feel like like it's a close 5. It's a close, like I feel like with another rewatch or two, it is a 5. But for now, like safe bet off of first view, I'm gonna give it 4.5. You know me, I'm
Oh,
usually a stickler on this podcast, man. That
okay, what is the reason why you take that half a star off?
I just don't. There was nothing about it like on this viewing that came to me like this is a perfect movie. Like I would like I could watch this every year and it's like perfect. It's like close to perfect. Like I don't know if it's like I said, if I rewatch it another time or two, I feel like I might have that moment. Like I'll tell you a movie I had that with recently was Lost in Translation. I watched it, Sofia Coppola, and I was just like, it exists in its whole other bubble. Like it's just perfect. That's a 5 out of 5 for me, man.
So let's go into our next thing. Award nominations for Academy. Only one.
Visual effects.
Yeah.
Did
Only
it win?
nominated though. No, only nominated.
What won?
Let me see.
Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wish. I wish.
That's where the budget did not go.
Captain America Winter Soldier.
Are you serious?
I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking.
I was about
Go
to
on.
say, with all the
Okay.
grays.
Okay, I got it. What's the best visual effects, right?
Yeah. 2015.
Oh, Interstellar.
Oh, that makes.
Oh, well, that, yeah.
No,
That
here are
checks
these nominations though. Interstellar, Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
I was joking about that one.
They love gray. They love grays and no color at the Academy, I guess.
Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Guardians of the Galaxy.
I forgot Guardians
That
came
makes
in
sense.
for.
Yeah.
X-Men: Days of Future Past. That was 3 Marvel movies. That was
But
nominated.
yes, Days of Future Past visual effects are peak.
The only
That is
2
one of the best
non-Marvel
X-Men.
movies that was nominated was Interstellar and Dawn.
Well, that makes sense which one won, too. Also, Interstellar won nothing at the Academy. So, low-key, it makes sense why they gave him a visual effects. Like, that was a movie that got hell
Yeah,
that year
because
at the
Dawn got
Oscars.
nominated and never won.
Well, yeah, and also just, like, Interstellar critically didn't hit the way
Oh, never mind.
they were anticipating it to be. So, I think that
Nolan
also
never
played in.
Nolan never got nominated for it.
That's what I'm saying. It got massively snubbed. Like it only was in a couple
Wow.
categories. It was because like people loved it, but they didn't think it was Inception. They didn't think it was, you know what I'm saying, like on that level.
Wow. But okay, last thing, ladies and gentlemen. Where can you watch this if you guys want to watch this? Like Bilal said, you
Disney
guys can
Plus.
go. Okay,
You know,
you guys can watch on Disney Plus. I know it's Hulu for us.
I'll leave the address in the caption or in the comment section, but I know a guy who burned some CDs down the road that you could get this from as well.
I think
Sometimes
you're
they
totally
come out.
joking, ladies and gentlemen.
I am totally joking. You can watch this on Max any day of the week.
No, it's not.
For
on
now.
Max.
It is. Dawn is. I watched it on Max.
Are you serious? It's on Max?
Yeah, man. It's on Max.
It's on Hulu.
Oh, it's on both? Well, there you
Yeah.
go, guys. It's on both. Yeah, it is.
What is Max?
HBO
It's
Max.
HBO. That's what they call it here now for some stupid reason. I don't really understand.
What's HBO? I don't got that here.
Oh, yeah, I don't have. Okay, so what is Warner Brothers streaming service in Canada?
Crave.
Crave. Okay,
You guys
so
have,
ours is Max, and it is pretty much like where like Game of Thrones came from, and like Sopranos, like that's HBO.
that's where House of the Dragon streams.
Yeah.
Or
So
Last
like
of Us.
when it launched, it was called HBO Max, and then Discovery bought out Warner Brothers, and so now it's Max. At least in the States.
Yeah. But of course, guys, that's it for Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I want to talk about what we're going to get into in this next couple of episodes. So next review, we're going to do War. Of course, all three of us should be together. Sammy's finally out of school, so we got him full force for the next, was it 2 months?
Like 3, I think. Yeah.
3?
Yeah.
Um,
I don't start till late August, early September. So
so a good announcement, guys. We're Sammy's out of school. You guys are always wondering when is he going to be on a podcast episode. You guys are in luck. We are doing Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes this coming up week for our podcast episode, and Sammy will be on it. So not only will we be reviewing Kingdom, we're going to be talking about all the Planets of the Apes movies. We're going to be talking about Dawn, Kingdom, War, Rise, and even the originals and that Tim Burton remake. So guys, you better be ready, lock and loaded for this podcast episode. It might be long, but of course, I think it'll be good, especially if you guys are fans of the Planet of the Apes franchise. But guys, with that being said, if you guys are not following us on TikTok, go follow us on TikTok. We post clips there. Instagram. I'm going to try to really get some of this news and stuff back on X. So go follow, or Twitter, go follow us on there. If you guys are listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, hit that follow button if you haven't yet. Leave us a 5-star rating or whatever rating you guys want. Leave us a comment also if you guys can. And guys, if you guys are watching the video version of YouTube, hit that like button. We will very, very appreciate it very much. Also, if you guys haven't subscribed to the channel yet, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell notification because it will tell you guys whenever we upload an episode of the podcast or the reviews. So guys, with that being said, I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys next time.